here's another reason why you want to take control of what you're doing.
Everything kind of funnels into the only winning move is not to play the game.
So I got to ask permission to buy the gun, and then I got to pay to ask permission to carry the motherfucker outside of my house. How about you go fuck yourself?
I always love that intro, man. Yeah. So, so over the weekend, Nikki Haley, we're going to start this one with Nikki Haley again.
Again? All right.
Again. Nikki Haley. What does it say when Nikki Haley loses her primary in her own state?
And then she still stays in? Yeah.
And she still stays in, man. Is that something? I mean, I just don't. To me, that is beyond me. I mean, I'm not a Trumper, dude. I'm not voting. You guys all know that I'm not voting, but it just seems funny. And this runs right up Ken's flag here. So,
well, rumor has it that she's trying to be the commander-in-chief if Donald Trump gets locked up, and so that's why she's staying in. And that's why the money's still rolling to her.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
That's all that is that she thinks that she's the one that can stand there if he goes to jail. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of noises too. I've been hearing about Tulsi Gabbard trying to put herself into a vice president's thing, which would be awesome. She's not incredible or anything, but she's been through the ringer. She's a military person that's super anti-war. And
she's decently left too.
She's incredibly looking.
Well, there's that too, yeah. But she's decently left, so that would be like the first time in quite a while we've had a right and a left president vice president mix, which is I think we should have all the time.
Yeah. And so I think that would be, in the old days, whoever came in second was vice president,
right?
So but the whole thing, Nikki Haley she's the establishment person. And the establishment hates Trump because they can't control him. And they've been trying, and they've done everything they can to squash this guy. And they're behind a lot of this stuff that's going on right now of these ridiculous lawsuits and stuff.
Yeah, and she'll vote for every war that they want.
Oh, there isn't a war that she won't vote for. I like it. Exactly. Just, no matter what you get, you end up with John McCain. That's what's happening.
There you go.
Basically.
Well, they're also talking to my boy Newsom, man, about coming in and
replace.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you what. If Newsom gets the nod,
he'll be president.
I will do everything possible. I will.
He'll beat Trump.
Ken, I am gonna have to come and get your. I need you to help me with my campaigning for Trump, because there's no way. I mean, you should see this place, dude. I don't understand what the attraction is with freaking Newsom here, dude. Everybody thinks that he's freaking great, and this place is trashed because of him, man.
I think it's the whole thing that it's not just the whole anti-Trump delusion thing. It's just that I think that side of the establishment has their people so brainwashed and dumbed down that if they just put up somebody, they'll be like, oh yeah. Okay, and then just roll with it without showing any of the stuff, like that debate that he had with Ron DeSantis, where Ron DeSantis factually just mopped the floor with him. However, most of the people that watched it still think that DeSantis won. It's the brainless shit. I think we actually deserve him.
Yeah, they didn't care. They don't care, man. They're just brainless out here, but
you would have to be out there though. Everywhere else, they're like, "Oh, California, they're the most progressive. Yeah, we should get that president, and then he'll be really progressive."
God. Anyway,
the people.
Hey, welcome to
the. Is this the weather report?
Yeah, welcome to the weather report. How you guys
about
doing
to rain
today?
Shit if he is elected. That's the forecast.
Episode number 4. 2 beers or not 2 beers? Music is the question. And if you didn't know, because a lot of people don't know, that we are on Twitter every freaking morning from Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 on the morning drive. So you guys want to come
left hand time, not right hand.
The left hand time, that's all messed up. So us Midwesterners and East Coast people, we're on normal time, Central. Yeah. So that's 8 o'clock Central and 9 o'clock Eastern for you on the coastal area.
Absolutely.
But we want to thank everybody that's tuning in live and going to be listening to this on the audio on your favorite podcast app. We just welcome you guys all here. We thank you for your support. We thank you for your comments. We've been getting popular for sure. I mean, we've got some hits, and the numbers keep going up, and that's a good thing. So we just thank you for all that, and we're all about just doing what we do, man. We're trying to stay away from too much government stuff. We love to talk about the government overreach and all the crap that's going on, but we're all of different cloths here. We got me, I'm a boomer, and then Jason and Ken, they're the two Gen Xers, and then we got the millennial down there, Mr. Harkos.
Yeah.
And so
the best generation, the greatest generation.
We're almost like the Brady Bunch, almost, but I like to think of us as the male view, but we got a very special show tonight, and we got a very special guest. His name is Chris Schrum from the Two Beers with the Band podcast. Can't wait to have him on. We're going to bring him on in a couple minutes, but I just want to kind of finish up with where we're going, because the thing is that one of our mottos on this podcast is the only winning move is not to play the game. And I can't exemplify that enough with what's going on in this world right now, and what we're dealing with just politically, and the division that they're trying to do, the media is trying to do to us. It's just crazy. And when we get that, I always kind of pass the buck off to Ken, because Ken's our political expert here. He loves to do that. But the thing is that and Jason over there, that's our 14-year-old in disguise of a late 30s man. And
his microphone's off.
You're muted.
There you go.
There you
thanks,
go.
Chris. Sorry.
There's Jason.
Yeah. Sorry, I was talking when I was on mute. So thanks, Chris.
You're welcome.
I wish I was in my 30s.
Yeah. Okay. He's in his 40s. All right. Whatever. He's still a millennial.
No, Gen X. Don't call me a millennial. No.
I'm the boomer.
Nothing to do with that generation.
I'm just barely a millennial. I was born in '86. I think like '84 is the cutoff. Like that was the first year of it or something like that.
I got that Joe stuff going on. So
yeah.
So I'm like the old school Xer, because I'm born in '68. So I'm 3 years into Generation X. We're in the OG land of
I'm like that with millennial too.
Exactly.
Like I was basically like raised like a Gen Xer almost, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a little boomer hangover in my world, and but I was able to get rid of it, and so you have a little bit of that Xer hangover into your millennialness.
Mm-hmm.
Do you got a little Romulan ale there, Ken? There looks like you have something blue in your cup.
It is a little Romulan ale. I'm using my Lift Bridge, which is of course a Minnesota company's Grumpy's Big Kahuna Tiki Fest that they do here in Minnesota, actually. And the drink tonight is kind of a Romulan kind of thing. It doesn't glow because I didn't put the full nuclear reaction into it tonight, but it's good enough to be potent, and we'll see how it goes.
There we go. Well, I'm for the celebration of the moment, I am hitting an 805 tonight. Firestone 805. This is from California. It's a nice little ale, and I like it. It's made from Firestone Brewery. It's down there in Paso Robles, California, and it's real good. If you guys have a chance, you get the 805 up there. Not like that. What is that beer that we were talking about the other day?
Spotted Cow, my brothers.
Spotted Cow.
It's only in Wisconsin.
New Glarus.
For now, until I bring it down to Indiana.
That's right.
Well, you can bring it wherever you want. You just can't sell it.
Oh, I'll do what I want, Jason.
Yeah,
I'm a free individual. I'm already on like multiple different lists with the government, so why not get one more, right?
And I'm drinking water and filling orders. So
there we go.
Yeah, Jason's still working.
Jason is a working fool, man. He is just on it 24/7, 365 days a year.
Oh,
yep.
Yeah.
We the people are sick and tired of it. Gotta love it, man. If you want something good, go to Horrible Designs. It's just the way that's the way he flies.
Which is hilarious because you said if you want something good, go to Horrible Designs. But it's like an oxymoron almost, but it's true.
Well, how about you, Chris? What do you got in there? You got a little bit of water?
I'm always drinking water, man. I don't drink anything but water.
It's vodka, man.
It's vodka, yeah, exactly.
A good movie.
Absolutely.
Up in Smoke is the best movie that came out other than Animal House. Anyway, well, we're going to bring our guests on. I'm just proud to announce that we have a great guest. His name is Chris Schrum from the Two Beers with the Band podcast. Chris, how you guys doing? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to finally be on with everybody all at once.
And we all do everything all at once. We're like the male view, so
Pretty much.
All right,
Yes, we
all
are.
right. Well,
I'm like Guy Whoopi.
What the fuck am I then?
you're the joy.
You're
Joy.
joy. Yeah, you're full on joy. And Jason's the hot Republican chick.
Oh, what? Megan McCain?
No, whatever hot Republican chick they get on there.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
man.
that's our voices.
Next time I'll wear a dress.
Yeah.
No, he could be the Sarah Palin because he's got the accent and shit.
There you go.
I don't have an accent.
You got the up north accent. You just don't know.
No,
Ken
I
has the
don't
same
have
shit. Don't worry. It's okay.
Fuck you. I do not have an accent.
Oh, what
Chris-
the Christ! You do have an accent. Let me tell you what. You're gonna go somewhere. We're gonna see somewhere to be tater tots and hot dish as far as I can see. I tell you what.
I don't say that. Don't you know?
I
say
don't.
that
You know.
'cause-
Oh, I seen you. I seen you one time, twice.
Exactly.
So
Hey,
what-
I got a
what-
little bit
what-
of twang in my voice, not as much as Chris, but I got a little bit.
Chris, what are you drinking over there? You are the beer aficionado.
I am actually drinking a beer I picked up from Tenfold Brewing, which is right up the street from the house. It's called Yippee K. It's a IPA. It's 6.7 ABV. Just cracked it open probably about, 30, 40 seconds ago. It's a very unique beer. It's a little on the fruity side as far as an IPA goes, but it's very well done. It's clear. Of course, I should probably show the camera. It's
There you
very
go.
clear. It's got a great color.
Yeah, it looks good.
Got a creamy, persistent head. It has a great smell. I mean,
like
it
that.
just
Yeah.
everything
You are-
about it. So
You
far,
are, a
I'm very
beer, you are a beer aficionado. Is that correct?
well. I wouldn't say an aficionado, but I do know what I look for in beer, and I do read about beer, and I have drank so many different beers, different styles of beer. What I like to evaluate beer. I think that helps me instead of just pounding beers. If I sit back and evaluate it and kind of treat it like a glass of wine. Let it open up a little bit, let it kind of breathe. Swirl it around, let it warm up a little bit. It tends to open up, and the flavors and the aromas really, are front and center.
So
So-
did you learn this on your own, or how did that happen? Because we're winos out here in California, so we have a lot of craft beers and stuff going on around here. But I've learned how to wine taste and stuff. But to me, it's just like, wine, is it good? Yeah, cool. I mean, I'm high. But anyway, but about beers, I mean, I know what I like and I don't like. I'm not a big IPA guy, only because I'm not into the hoppy stuff. But I really love some of the craft beers they're coming out with here, especially the stuff that's aged with in a bourbon barrel and stuff like that. The bourbon kind of infused stuff is really up my alley. I like the stouts that are infused that way. So how did you start with your beer tasting and knowing how to taste and opening stuff up, things like that?
Well, I actually, years and years ago, was real big into wine. And there's a process when you open a bottle of wine. You got to let it aerate. You got to let it warm up. So, you got to let it open up, basically. And if a good bourbon is the same way. What I do is put a little bourbon in a glass, put a couple of drops of water in the bourbon, kind of swirl it, and let it sit for a few minutes. Let it open up. The water brings all the aromas and the flavors of a bourbon out. Well, I've noticed, I would open a beer and pour it, and you get some beers that are in some big cans, big bottles, and if you're having a conversation like I'm sitting here talking to you guys, or I could be talking to musicians, and, the beer sits off to the side, well, it warms up a little bit. And as it warms up, different flavors, um, you know, kind of come forward. And I've just noticed that, well, wait a minute, let me, sit back and instead of just opening the beer, pouring the whole thing into a glass and then just, slamming it back and saying, oh, that had a high fruit flavor and there wasn't much malt to it. Well, why don't you let it sit there and kind of open up? Let the air get to it. Well, now, if you treat a craft beer like you treat wine, you get so much more flavor out of it. And that's, I've basically it's trial and error. I've kind of taught myself, how to drink beer, how to enjoy beer, things like that, kind of coming from a wine background.
Yeah, cool. So, yeah, when you're talking about bourbon, I'm the guy like my boss. He loves bourbon and scotch, and he showed me how to do the little water thing. And I'm the chronic guy at bourbon on the rocks. Hates it.
Yeah.
Won't even. Yeah, he won't even share his bourbon with me anymore. But I understand the science behind it and why it happens, and I think it's a really good thing for a lot of people to know. I mean, I had no idea that setting a beer aside and letting it warm up and open it up is one of the things that maybe you should do. But it was interesting when I was listening to your podcast the other day. You guys were talking about Miller Lite. And how that was the best beer. So does that go along with the same function? Are those beer? I guess what I'm asking is, are those beers made to be opened up and drank that way?
The Miller Lite, Budweiser, Coors Light, beers like that are made to be drank from the can or the bottle, whatever they come in, and they're meant to be drank cold, which dumbs down the flavor of, anything, wine, beer, whatever. If you drink it cold, you don't really get a whole lot of flavor out of it. And to me, that's what those beers are made for. They're made to pull straight out of a cooler, crack, and just go to town on it, where craft beer's actually made to be drank from a glass of some sort, a mug, whatever the case may be.
I always thought that the Miller Lite and like your Milwaukee's Best and Old Milwaukee Light kind of beers were best to be drank cold from a hole that you punch on the bottom with a screwdriver as fast as you can.
I did that.
It has that effect that I think those are designed specifically for that kind of digestion.
Well, I did that quite a bit in college, and I learned that wasn't the best way to drink beer. So, but I actually heard an interview one time. Someone was talking to a brewer years ago, and he said, craft beer's not meant to be drank from a can or from a bottle. That's how we sell it, but that's not how it's meant to be enjoyed. And it just kind of caught my attention. I was like, you know what? Let me try that. Instead of buying this craft beer in the can, popping it and drinking it from the can, why not pour it in a glass? And especially your hazy IPAs. I know there are people, it's kind of a love-hate thing. Either you love it or you hate it. There's not a whole lot of middle ground for hazy IPAs. But actually, a lot of different beers that I buy in cans, I'll I'll put the can on its side and I'll roll it 3 times, set it upright, crack it into a glass. Not real fast, but not, like you see in the bar where they tilt the glass to the side and tilt the beer like that and just pour it to where it gets very little head on it. You pour it in the glass so that everything mixes and you get, a decent little head on it. that's where your aromas are going to come from, especially a beer you've never had. If you want to kind of smell it and see what it's about, a lot of people don't. They may just be like, okay, and then go, and then, ooh, they either like it or don't. And that's not really fair. You haven't given that beer, it's what you should be giving it. I'm a fan of good beer. There are certain styles of beer I don't necessarily lean towards, but I'll still try them. And I'll say, you know what? They hit all the marks with that beer. It's just not my style. I'm not going to spend my money buying that beer again, but it was a good beer for what it was. A lot of people, for example, don't like hazy IPA or West Coast IPA. And they'll just, oh, it's a West Coast IPA. It can't be. Well, why don't you give it a chance? That's what I drink all different kinds of beer, all different kinds of wine. I don't necessarily enjoy every single style of wine out there, but I'll give it a chance.
So with the craft beers, is as you talked about pouring beers and things like that, are there actually, because here, like in wine country, they have different glasses for different wines.
Yes.
You pour wine in a certain glass for just a Cabernet that you wouldn't do for a stout or anything else. Do they have different glasses, and is there a right way to pour and a wrong way to pour beers, ales, lagers, stuff like that? Is there some kind of a standard that is used?
Well, there are proper glasses for each style of beer, but I think personally, some beers call for kind of a slender glass that it looks real pretty while it's sitting there, but if you, at least for me, if I want to see what the beer's about, pour it in a glass similar to this one right here. It has a big opening on it. That way I can, really get my nose in there, and I can kind of block off all this extra with my hand and just, get in there and get a good smell from the beer. I can, especially something that has that much surface, you're going to get the aromas, and they're going to be able to open up and mix a little bit, if that makes sense, to where if you got this real skinny glass, you can't really get in there to it. And depending on how it's hopped, you may get just real heavy fruit flavors off of it, pineapple, grapefruit, things like that. And your brain automatically says, oh, this is going to be a grapefruit heavy, hopped beer. And then when you taste that beer, your brain's already said this is what this beer is. So that's automatically what you sense when you drink the beer. And again, you're not being fair to the beer, not being fair to the brewery, So me personally, I get a glass that has a nice wide open top. That way I can get everything that beer's, trying to offer up.
Whenever I was in bartending school, when I got out of the army, I went to bartending school for a few, and they said that the style of glass matters, especially with wine. You know how with wine, it's in a shape kind of like that. It has like that oval shape, and if I remember right, it's been like since 2008. But if I remember right, they said that bevel, how it bowls out and then it kind of comes back, but it's still big at the beginning. It actually creates like something about like the surface area or whatever, but it actually allows it to do all of its breathing that it does when you have to let it rest. Because they taught us when you pour, when you do like you pour wine, you pour it at an angle and you let it sit and then you serve it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because the wine glasses kind of look like the one that you just had, except yours looks like a hybrid almost.
Yeah, that's kind of one of my go-tos as far as a beer glass, because it's, it has, I can pour a beer in here and you can really get a good look at it, you know, because it does have what I call the belly right there. You know, you can see if there's anything floating in beer. Sometimes, especially when I lay it on the side and I roll it around, you know, and then pour it into the glass, sometimes you do get a little sediment in there. And honestly, as long as the beer's not sour and there's a little sediment in it, that's fine. I make sure and I let that settle. And when I drink it, you know, I don't just turn the glass all the way up. You just kind of sip beer like you would sip wine. And
so is there an importance to the pour?
Yes, there is. Let me see. I think I have enough. Yeah, I have enough left in the can. See if I can. This is the way I pour it. I pour it
like straight in,
almost straight in. But you see, it does develop some head on it right there. Where
because you know, like whenever you pour it out of a tap, you have like the glass almost sideways, and then you cant it up as it gets towards the top.
Yeah, and that can work. And what they're doing, they're trying to decrease the head, because if it has a whole lot of head on it and you set it in front of somebody, well, of course they're gonna wait till the head goes down, and then they're gonna say, well, wow, man, that was mostly head there. You got to top this beer back off. I've seen people do that before. So, you know, when they pour them, they do try to limit the head. But with me, since I've never had this beer before, I have to leave a little head up there. That's where at least for me, that's where the aromas are going to come from. Now, once I've figured out what the aromas are, that's when, you know, I'll pour it a little more, like you said, a little more like that, so that not so much head is on the beer. But still, you know, I try to at least get a little head on the beer every time I pour it.
So out of the tap or out of the can, what is your preference?
Ooh,
I guess it depends.
Well, yeah, it does depend. If it's going to be a stout or a darker beer, I'd almost rather have it out of a can. You know, if it's going to be an aged beer, I'd like to have it out of a can or a bottle. When I was younger, tap beer would always give me just the fiercest headache the next morning, where I could drink the same amount of beer, maybe even more, out of a can. It wouldn't bother me at all. Well, over time, you know, developed, I guess, a tolerance against that. And I don't know, tap beer's fine. I kind of like can art or bottle art. That's, you know, that's one of the things that I enjoy. Plus, you know, I guess just overall straight from the can or the bottle is how I prefer it.
Yeah, I've always been the kind of guy that, you know, like I was golfing yesterday and went in and of course they had all the canned beers there, but then, you know, they have tap beers, and I always tend to go for the tap for some reason. They really didn't have any beers that I liked, is basically what it came up to. And so I'll usually get an ale or a stout off of the tap if I can. So I was just curious on your view about that. And back to the glasses really quick, didn't Anchor Steam come out with their own glass or something like that? They had a unique glass that they used for their, or was it that, or was the one back east, the one in Boston? I can't remember the name of it.
I want to say Anchor Steam. I heard something about them coming out with their own glass, and I want to say Sam Adams.
Yeah, Sam Adams. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
For a while, came out with a glass that had kind of I want to say like a little tornado niche in the very bottom of the glass.
Right,
they
right.
They
exactly.
said I can't remember everything about it, but back when I heard that, I thought, you guys are taking it just a little too far. I understand. I mean, but you never know that a brewery is not going to spend that kind of time and money to come out with their own glass if it, for novelty's sake.
Yeah, yeah.
It's going to have a meaning. And, that I think, if Tenfold, if they came out with their own glass and they said, oh, this is a new style glass that we're putting out, and this is the beer that we think needs to be drank, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it in their glass. I'm going to try it in my glass, and I'm going to see if there's any actual difference. Cool. So I think now that I'm invested a little bit deeper in beer, if a brewery came out with a glass, I would try it. I'd spend the money on the glass, and try it their way.
Cool. Well, let's switch gears into your podcast. You are the curator and the host of the Two Beers with the Band podcast, and you're down there in Nashville, Tennessee. And so you're in the hotbed of the music business right now down there. That's a lot of stuff that's going on. Everybody's back there. Everybody's making music, from Beyonce to whoever else is down there, because the LA scene is dead. I tell you that, and it's all moved out to Tennessee and Nashville. And you must be pretty happy about that. You guys must have a pretty good entertainment scene down there.
Yeah. Happy about that, and the entertainment scene here is crazy. You can personally, I'll stay away from 2nd Avenue, Broadway. That's kind of when you see the commercials for Nashville, that's the tourist area of Nashville. Now there's plenty of bars that have live music venues. In fact, everything down there has, even the hotel have live music venues inside the lobby. It's crazy.
Sounds like a Vegas situation.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember the name of the hotel. It's a little swanky downtown. You come in the lobby, and it had a very nice bar over here to the right, and then over here to the left, you go through this. It's just a regular door. You go through the door, and it's kind of a honky-tonk atmosphere. Had a wooden stage over here in the corner, had a drum kit already sitting up there, had a bunch of mic stands. I mean, it's ready to go, and I kind of just peeked my head in, and I was like, y'all really did it up in here, trying to make this the little Nashville corner of this really swanky hotel. But they had a single guy in there sitting on a stool, picking his guitar and singing. There's maybe 6-7 people in the crowd, but just about anywhere you go in Nashville that has, I'm going to say, a decent beer menu or a decent wine menu or a decent menu is going to have some form of musical entertainment. Yeah, and cool. It is everywhere. You can't get away from it. Even the airport has live music venues.
I know you had told me that, since you've grown up there, that it's not the Nashville you remember from your childhood. It's like a totally different monster now.
Yeah. It's all fanfare, and you have all these big money hotels, these big money condos coming to town. They're knocking down, the old recording studios, the recording studios that have history. They're just the people who recorded there. And they, I guess when you look at sound now, these studios, they're just, or at least the people who are knocking them down, they say, well, the sound isn't that good. Why would anyone want to record there? Well, that's because of the people who have recorded there. And you want to knock it down to build your stupid tall skinnies and charge $500,000 for them a piece, you know, and people are going to pay it. There's people moving here every day from New York, Chicago, California, Texas, and they're buying these homes and these condos for cash money. So these builders from New York and LA come in here and they knock down everything to put up condos or these tall, skinny homes, and they know they can sell them before they even get them completed. And people come in and pay cash money for it. It just, I'm glad I got to grow up in what Nashville was, not what it is. So
have they preserved an area that is old Nashville or anything like that, or is it just kind of all going away?
It's all going away, and the bombing that we had a couple of Christmases ago really messed up a beautiful stretch of the original Nashville. The buildings were they were so old, but they were so strong, and they've supported so many different businesses over the years. And luckily, all the businesses never changed the exterior. Now, of course, they would modernize the interior for the business, the restaurant, entertainment venue, whatever the case may be, but they left outside the buildings the original, you know, even faded colors. And to me, that was beautiful to see. You could look across the river and see old Nashville right there, and then you see the bustling, massive buildings in behind it. You know, so it kind of, at least for me, it gave sense what made Nashville what it is. Well, now they're trying to get rid of that because it doesn't fit a narrative.
Right.
And
so instead of Sun and Arista and all those other record labels that used to be, now what do you got coming in? RCA and Capitol and all those places?
Well, you got all the big names coming in, and then you have, you know, there are smaller labels out there all over the city. And, you know, COVID really hurt the small labels, and some of them are really still struggling out there, you know, to record and to get artists to come in. And it just, the smaller labels right now that's where I would like to go to find somebody to interview, would be those small labels, or to find people before they sign with those, even those smaller labels. You know, I want to talk to the people who, you know, I guess if you look at commercials or listen to the music and people say, oh, you know, I made it to Nashville and I'm living out of my car and I'm, you know, working a day job and playing the honky tonks and living off tips. I want to talk to those people because those people are still pure. They don't have a handler telling them what they can and cannot say. And, you know, I like to talk to people who've been in the industry for a while, but they're person. You know, they're not, their opinions are not, I guess, given to them, and they don't have to watch what they say. And, you know, if they want to talk bad about the industry, well, okay, talk bad about the industry, but tell me exactly what you're talking about and what you dislike about it. You know, and I'm learning a lot myself about the industry that I had no idea just from these people. And, you know, thing about the music industry, especially here, it will chew you up and spit you out and walk away. It doesn't have time. There are way too many people come to town, wanting to be country music or just, I mean, it's not just country music. We have a massive scene in this city for everything.
Mhm.
Right.
Jazz, R&B, alt
Blues.
rock, pop rock, blues, bluegrass, all kinds of different styles of bluegrass, everything.
Right here, I'm holding a fresh copy right out of Nashville. It came on a truck yesterday with the band that I saw out at a place that I go to called The Barn. This is the Alex Lucero band, and this was recorded and produced by Brooks Sutton at the Studio Nashville. This is a little small label, I guess, that's out at Nashville. And I went out and watched them last night, and it was a mix of blues and bluegrass and just a couple of different genres, I guess. I don't know. I posted a couple of things out for the guys last night for them to sample it. So the band was well versed. I mean, just a little 4-piece band, and just the incredible music that came out of them was just a testament to what's going on in Nashville. I mean, that's just the way I got. I'm blessed to have kind of a Nashville like a venue that we go to here called The Barn. It's like a little 75-seat little venue, and we get all the acts that come in from Nashville and stuff like that are touring. And some of them are the larger labels, but a lot of them are just freelance, people that are they're making their music or making their living by traveling around and doing house and barn shows. So it's a hard life for them, I'm sure, traveling all the time, especially when they're married, have families and stuff like that. But definitely some great music coming out of Nashville. And so I guess my next question would be, how did you get involved in wanting to do this podcast called Two Beers with the Band? What was the catalyst behind that?
Well, I've always been interested in the music industry from all different aspects. And I noticed a little tap room that I go to frequently that I'm a talkative guy. I'm a friend. I will talk to him, and especially you get a few beers in me, you get a few beers in anybody, and everybody starts talking. Everybody becomes friendly. And I was talking to a young lady one night, her and her husband, and I found out, she was in a band, and they were fixing to probably, I think, within a month or so, going to start their summer touring, which pretty much took them out of Nashville for about 3 to 4 months, if not longer. And, we were just talking, and basically she and I and her husband, he used to work at Gibson Guitar, and he worked with the custom guitars, and he's moved out of that, and he's with the band. So, I talked to him about the guitar industry, talked to her about the music. And, I've noticed that artists really want to open up and talk to people who don't fanboy,
Right.
fanboy them out, because that makes them nervous. I'm a fan of the industry, and I'm a fan of the art. So even if I don't understand your music, let's talk about it, because I want to understand it. And I got to noticing that you talk to these artists at a friend level instead of a interview level, and they really, next thing you know, you've sat there and had 4 or 5 beers, and 3 hours has gone by, and they're like, man, I'd love to talk, but I gotta go. And I noticed that really pumped me up, because every artist I talk to, I learn something new. And
But one of the things you want to consider when you're talking to somebody that's an artist is, like you said, talk to them like your friend. What you're talking about is you're not asking them for something. You just want to have a conversation. You want to know about them, what they do. And when you get with especially the higher the fame, the more important that is, because every person that's around them wants something from them.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
just to have an honest conversation, I met Brian Setzer at one time, and we ended up just sitting talking about cars. I was killing me not to talk about music and stuff with him, but like, you know what? We were at a car show. I ran into him. We sat there and talked about cars. And that to me was just we had a great conversation. We didn't talk about music at all. And
you also kind of grew up around bigger name music industry as well, so you already knew growing up. It's like, hey, yeah, these people got some fame, but they're regular people too.
Well, exactly. So a lot of the people that we knew when I was growing up were well-known people and musicians. I don't know who the hell they were, but they were just the people that my dad hung around with or played with or whatever. My dad was a musician, Chris, so that's why a lot you see behind me is like this is some of my dad's stuff for his old jazz band stuff. But so when you talk about the fangirl stuff, so there's been times when I've been the fangirl in other segments of things. There was a person named Chris Ann Hall who I went and saw a bunch of her speeches and lectures and stuff, and I just totally fangirl her every time, and exactly the reaction you'd expect. It's just like, oh, okay, well, thank you for coming. We're really nice to see you and stuff. Someone get this person away from me. They're obviously a stalker, Whereas if you talk to somebody as, how was the show for you tonight? The venue. I mean, have you played here before? What's the crew like to work with? That kind of thing. You're asking questions that they don't usually hear. And as an icebreaker, and not just, hey, you did a great job, awesome show. I mean, everyone likes to hear that, but yeah, just to approach like you did. I listened to your last episode, and you can really tell that that's your approach. You're really talking to these guys as, like you said, you're just having a couple beers together, just talking about life.
Well, I remember probably the conversation I had with a guitarist, and I'd been thinking about doing this. I didn't know how to format, asking questions or what I was going to do, but I already had the concept in my head of I would like to do a podcast.
Oh, I think he froze up.
Froze up for a minute.
I think we froze him off. Oh,
we are experiencing technical difficulties. We'll be back.
Technical difficulties, please remain on the line, and we'll be back.
Talk amongst yourselves. Smoke them if you got them. We'll be back shortly with Chris Schrum from the Two Beers.
Chris, go ahead. Text him and let him know that
No, I just texted him and told him that he turned into what's that fucking guy's name? Huh? Well, no, what's that? Mitch McConnell. He's Mitch McConnell right now.
You went Mitch McConnell. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about Nashville. Nashville's a crazy town, and I could see that. I was at a few years ago. I was at a motorcycle show down there, and one of the places. I'll see if you can see it on film here. This was my favorite place in Nashville. It was right next to our hotel. Literally, Cooters. And this is a
nice name.
It's a Dukes of Hazzard museum. That's in front of it. So it's got Cooter's truck with the General Lee. And then inside they had all this, all the Dukes of Hazzard toys and paraphernalia and stuff. Right next to it was the Willie Nelson Museum, which was just a place to walk in and get high. And then in our hotel. But what he was talking about, so this was kind of like a little bit of the old section. And then a couple miles away was the convention center where our show was. And it was like the Taj Mahal. I mean, it was acres and acres of new construction, super high end stuff. Like he was saying, there's music playing everywhere. It was fantastic, but it had a country feel, but it didn't have a Nashville feel. Boston, where I'm from, is very similar. There's a lot of areas in Boston that have the old colonial look, but it doesn't have the feel that those old buildings have. There's no warmth, there's no charm to it. So the Nashville that he was discussing, Chris, I was just mentioning that we were at I did a motorcycle rally a few years ago, and it was at like a big convention center right there in Nashville, and it kind of was exactly what you were talking about. It's this really high end, super expensive, um, had the look of had the look of like country in Nashville, what you would think of the stereotypical architecture kind of thing, but
Yeah.
none of the feel, none of it. There's music playing everywhere. The bands were great, but you know, you walk through it and you're like, it kind of had, it's almost like an amusement park, and a lot of the cities that have good old that have great old history are having the same problem. Boston, New York, Chicago, where they're tearing down all this old stuff and building up new stuff that sort of tries to replicate it, but it can't because it just doesn't have the soul that those old places did. So that's kind of what I saw in Nashville. I was a little bit in the old Nashville and new Nashville at the same time, just from driving from our hotel to where, because we were right next to, I was showing them these guys. This is, you know, Cooter's.
Oh, yeah.
So
Over by Opryland.
yeah, Opryland. There you go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's where
wow.
we stayed there. And we walked around a bit and stuff, went and had barbecue, and the barbecue, like I said, the barbecue joint had band in it. It was great. But yeah, I found the same thing going to Nashville. I had never been there, and I thought of it, you know, what you think of it in your head. I thought about this old kind of Grand Old Opry, and it's gonna be this awesome, really country thing, and the music everywhere was fantastic. But exactly what you said, it's a lot of. It looked like they tore down a lot of the old stuff and put up new stuff that's trying to be more modern. It just didn't make sense. And they're doing it in all cities. It's not just Nashville.
Well, I think the problem is here. What I've witnessed is that nobody is fighting to maintain, you know, the old Nashville. You have all these people in the industry here. You know, I mean, from the top-down business aspect of music, majority of those people who are up there, these big decisions about artists, about contracts, things like that, they came from somewhere else. They were not Nashville natives. They came from, I was talking to a guy probably 3 or 4 months ago, a writer for one of the labels, and that's all he does is write. And he moved here from California, and he wrote pop music in California. But, you know, he wasn't doing as well as he wanted to. So he knew that the cost of living in Nashville wasn't nearly what it is in California. So he saved up some money, sold his house, moved to Nashville, and he said, you know, I knew I could get a writing gig, and it might take a little while for me to find my niche, but I can get a writing gig here and continue doing what I do. And I said, okay, well, what style of music are you writing? And we get to talking, and I said, so don't take this the wrong way, but you write bro country. And he said, yeah, I do. And I was thinking to myself, okay, if you're proud of that and you're okay with that, good. Because, you know, that's actually selling right now. A lot of people in the country music industry aren't necessarily fans of that because a lot of them see it as country's going through another change. And we're really moving away from our roots, and we're moving towards more mainstream, you know. And of course, the music industry is about what? Sales. If you're not selling records, you're not making money, you can't support anybody. So what's selling? Pop country, bro country, that's what's selling, because that sells everywhere, not only in the US, but worldwide. You know, and people like me, I'm kind of curious when it comes to my music, when it comes to beer, bourbon, wine, whatever. I'm just purist in nature. So I see the transition that country music's going through. I'm not necessarily a fan, but you know what? I mean, you got to roll with it. And at the same time, the city is going through that same transition. We're getting rid of all the old and we're bringing in all the new. And you can see that in all the buildings, all these skyscrapers that are in this city, all these 10,000 cranes that are up everywhere. I mean, you know what? Again, you know, I'm glad I grew up in what Nashville was and I was able to see that and experience it. So if I was 21, 22 in Nashville now, it would be so, it's just so much, you know,
You bring up
commercialization.
You bring up a great point here, and I think there's a balance between what you're talking about. In it comes down to music as it gets more and more popular. You say now that we have this, the whole world is the stage, kind of. So the most efficient way you can get the music out that's the most cost effective to the most amount of people is the way the big companies are going to do it, and that's going to make it so. What I've found with country. And I've never been a big country fan. I didn't dislike it. I just growing up in Boston, we didn't have a lot of country.
Oh, I disliked it.
But I know you did. But what I'm saying is that the to create musicians are difficult. So and artists are difficult, and creative people can be difficult. When you're curating these people, and pop music and country music have now curated these groups that are I mean, it's been happening for a lot of years. There was just Bruce turned me on to a show called The Wrecking Crew that was a documentary about the guys in the 60s. Like the Beach Boys didn't play on their albums. They had, they had groups that played in their albums that were studio musicians. And it just made more sense for the record company to do it that way. And with the advent of what's happening now with, Chris, you're going to shoot me here with this, but like with auto-tune and stuff, people don't have to be good. They don't have to be good.
That is true.
When you're talking about performers, and you get them up on stage, and now you can do the auto tune on stage, so they don't even have to be good live anymore. And what you do is you get the best looking, the ones that have the most charisma, and it's not necessarily the best musicians.
Yeah, so, it's more of like the experience is what it is on the live. The live isn't about being able to actually recreate the music in a live setting. You know, the live experience is that it's just an experience now. You know, it's not about, oh yeah, let's go listen to the band because they're better live. It's not about that. It's just like a party, and the person's in real life is kind of what it's turning into, especially like in my realm of hip hop, you know, like, because you know, as a lot of people say, hip hop's not real music because they don't use instruments. But, you know, like just because they have a backing track and stuff like that, a lot of the people, they can do the track only and still sit there and rock out the whole thing. And, you know, there's a lot of artists that will write their music for performance. So like there's an artist, one of the biggest ones I can think off the top of my head is named Tech9. And he writes to perform. That way, when he's on stage, he doesn't get winded. He doesn't miss a lot of his lyrics or nothing like that. Like he gets up there and he's like, and he's like dancing with it and everything like that. Like he's got like, it's all choreographed and everything too. Like he's, you know, like with a lot of like Usher and stuff like that, a lot of the big performers, that's what they do. They write to perform. But then you have a lot of these mid or lower level people who, when they write to record. And so whenever it goes on, you know, they'll do a lot of what's called punching in. So they'll be sitting there and they'll sit there and they'll have a few lines. And I'm trying not to use a lot of jargon for a lot of people here, but like they'll have a few lines or whatever, and then they'll either mess up or they'll run out of breath or something like that, and they'll stop, and then they'll cut that, and then they'll come in a little bit before that and take over and go until they mess up again or whatever, and just keep on going. Or if it's somebody who's like rapping really, really fast, and they're not actually good at rapping fast, like Twista or any of the Bone Thugs and Harmony people or something like that. There's somebody like, you know, they're trying to sound like that. They'll come in and they'll just go as fast as they can, and then they'll just keep doing the punch in. And so then whenever you hear it on the recording, you're like, man, that dude went crazy. He was firing off on all cylinders. And then you see that person on stage and they're like having an asthma attack. and they're
Yeah,
like they
exactly.
have to have they can't just have the backing instrumental behind them. They
Well,
got to actually have their whole track behind them on stage.
all
as
right,
they're sitting there spitting over it.
all the hip hop artists, they can't, there's a level that you want to be at, that the top guys are really I mean, everyone can't be Ben Shapiro. I mean, he pretty much showed what it is to be a hip hop artist.
That
So
motherfucker.
I see what you're saying there.
Yeah. No, that shit's annoying. I think Tom McDonald's annoying to begin with as well too. But yeah, yeah, exactly. Get it, Ken. But for Ben Shapiro to hop in there, man, that was just a stunt.
Well,
That
back
was
to Chris
dumb.
here. So yeah, Chris, what I've experienced down here at the barn, because it's probably the only venue that I really frequent a lot, is that a lot of the talent that comes down from Nashville to tour here in California are just basically, like I said, they're touring around and they're doing their gigs and stuff, but they're mostly songwriters, and they write tons and tons and tons of songs that sometimes they never perform, but they're just hoping that somebody picks up on those writings and somehow makes it into somebody else's musical desires, label or whatever. So yeah, I'm really excited that I get that kind of exposure down here with the talent that does come through here, at least in the what we call bluegrass down here, because that's what we get. We get bluegrass, we get the Americana, we get not too much rocky stuff, but folky stuff, down here. That's who comes through the barn, but definitely quality talent. And another thing I wanted to comment on the changing demographics of Nashville is that I think every major city that has anything to do with any kind of big culture, like Austin, Texas, Seattle, Washington, Portland, all those places have just been inundated with with transplants. Denver, Colorado is another one. Whenever the economy went south or something somewhere else, everybody would locate to wherever those good places are. And I guess Nashville, I've had some good friends that have moved to Nashville lately. You just go in there because it's affordable, number one, because of course, we have places here in California. I live in $1 million house, but actually it's a track house in the middle of a freaking suburb. Yeah, I can come out there to Nashville and grab a pretty decent house for
fucking
relatively
mansion where I'm at, dude. For $1 million, dude,
kind of a
dude,
mansion.
you could
Yeah.
have. Yeah,
I mean, that's the
you can
reality.
house your whole family in a house.
40
that's the
acres and a
reality.
5,000 square foot home here in
Yeah,
Baldwin.
because if I was to sell here, where would I go in California? There's no place to go. I got to buy a house that's comparable.
The hell out of there is where you go.
Yeah, you gotta come out here,
exactly,
man. What the fuck
Come
you
out to
thinking?
God's
Oh,
way.
I'll be moving around in California.
We'll show you.
These guys, the fucking
Jesus.
Millview. Anyway,
He's never gonna go back once he comes out.
but
here
Chris,
with you.
I definitely feel where you're coming from, because San Jose and the Silicon Valley has definitely gone that way. I lived and grew up in the San Jose that was agricultural orchards, fruit orchards, and that's how it was. And I was at the very beginning of the what you call the semiconductor, now Silicon Valley culture that is here now, and it's nothing like it was when I grew up. So
When Bruce even mentioned,
I definitely feel it.
You even mentioned that when electricity came to San Jose, it really changed everything. You thought, because you saw that when you were in high school.
Well, when I got out of the dirt hut that I was living in back then.
Yeah, exactly. The first time you got electricity, it was probably.
Chris, I'm the old guy here, so
Well, I think it's funny that you say Nashville's affordable, because I saw I guess on the news the other day, our local news here, one of the things they said they were going to talk about in the 5 p.m. broadcast, and this was in the morning, how the city council and the mayor is trying to make Nashville more affordable. And I thought to myself, or I actually said out loud, it's pretty sad that Nashville is no longer affordable. The people that
Live in
you know,
Nashville.
we're born and raised here, can't afford to live here anymore. And my property value goes up every single year. And I'm not talking about just a little bit. Excuse me, it goes up a significant amount every single year. And you know, I've seen these developers come in and pay somebody, you know, $200,000 for a house that honestly wasn't really even worth that. Knock it down, put 3 tall skinnies on that same exact lot and sell them for $1 million a piece and get it. I mean,
Because location.
Yeah. And people coming from California and Boston, I guess, are used to being so close together. You know,
well, they're used to spending that money, because being from Boston and moving to the Midwest, I was astounded how cheap the living was, and everyone out here complained about how high the cost of living was.
And I think there's that, and then there's also when you sell your house for almost $1 million and you come out to a lower cost area, like we got a lot of the people coming out from California here over the last few years, they'll sell their house for $900,000, $1 million, you know, maybe a little bit more or whatever, and they'll come out here to buy the exact same size house for like $250,000 tops, and so they're like, okay, cash done. Now I got you know, a few $100,000 to throw into my whatever the fuck I want to fund, or my retirement or whatever.
The other thing that's happened, I've had 5 houses in the last. I've been playing this game for a while in real estate. And part of what happens too is you get the people that come out and they're used to spending $900,000 for a normal house. So when they get out here and the house is $300,000 for the same one, for them to pay $350 to make sure that they get it, they won't even blink, because they're like, well, this is great. And that's been helping raise the prices. Plus all of the corporate buyers of housing in the last 10 years has really made a difference. So people buying and renting houses.
Yeah, Bruce. So when you sell your house, you can come out here and buy like 3 of them for the same price.
Dude, I am so afraid of driving off the edge of the horizon over there with those pictures.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. We got a couple of hills that'll stop you. It's fine.
Yeah. There's a berm that runs around the whole Midwest. Part of it's the Appalachians, part of it's the Rockies. You just bounce between the two. You'll be all right.
Hey, Chris. We're coming across a hard stop, but we want to keep continuing having a little conversation with you after. But before we leave and get on to the other conversation, why don't you go ahead and plug your podcast and tell them how they can get a hold of you and hear you.
All right. My podcast is 2 Beers with the Band at 2BWB. I am in the process of posting things on all the social medias, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. I'm still in the building phase. You know, Harco's really, really helping me out a lot. And you 2 guys are helping me out as well. I don't want to leave y'all out. And we're in the process of trying to get everything together. You know, I'm sending Harco some rough stuff, and he's turning gold, or he's making diamonds out of coal, I guess. I don't know.
He's an alchemist.
He's doing great work. I'm doing my best to, you know, I'm learning again as I go. I'm learning how to work with cameras, lighting, you know, microphones, things like that. So it's a slow process, but I think the ball's starting to roll, so I can put more out there. Right now, it kind of seems like maybe I'm at a stop, or I kind of step back from it. I haven't, but I'm lining things up. I'm getting interviews, you know, I'm working on things. I just don't have everything out there right now, but I do have some things out there. So if you run across them, check them out. If you like them, subscribe. You know, we'll go from there. I'm gonna try to get better. Each podcast I do, each interview I do, everything's going to get easier, so it should be better.
Yeah, the second one that's not quite out yet that I just got done editing up for you, is a lot better than the first one. Like quality wise, with the video, the audio, there's a lot of issues and stuff like that. Yeah, I not to toot my own horn, but I was able to get a lot of it out of there to where it looked really good for the first one, and then the second one is even better and had a lot less issues going on. But like I keep telling you, man, you're only on the second podcast now. It's going to get better from here. Like I told, man, I showed him my first episode of Hip Hop Hour back in 2017. I'm like, look how crazy it was. He's like, man, that was really good. I'm like, no, that's garbage compared to what it ended up 4 years later. Like I can hop on any podcast right now and just work miracles, now. But that's because I did it, twice a week for 4 years all by myself. So, it's definitely getting better. And the format is dope too.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Chris, for coming on the show, man. We want you to stick around for the other side. Chris will shoot you. Chris will shoot you the link to get on the other side. I want to thank my co-host Ken Madden from Mad K Designs, Harkos from Music Making Sense, and Jason from Horrible Designs. Thank these guys, because without them, this wouldn't be a show. Wouldn't be the Male View. But we want to invite you here every other week, twice. What do they call that? Bi-weekly. Is that what you guys tell me? It's bi-weekly.
Yeah, bi-weekly.
At 7 o'clock on the real time, Pacific time. And we're going to see you next time. And we just enjoy you guys having here. Thanks for supporting us. Hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that notification button on YouTube if you want to be notified of our next podcast. And of course, share this with everybody that you can, because we just need the support, and we always enjoy your support. We want to thank you, and we'll see you next time on the Weather Report.
Cheers.